Okay, boxing fanatics. So today we're going to go through the top 10 best pound for pound boxers in the world. It's had a bit of an update recently, so yep, let's get to it. Okay, number 10, we have Gervonta Davis. So, Gervonta Davis last week captured arguably the best win of his career when he stopped Ryan Garcia in the 7th round. Yeah, most would agree it was a great performance. Tank definitely looked a level above Garcia. And yeah, he got the win in kind of devastating fashion, landing a nice body shot on Garcia in the 7th round. And yeah, getting the win. And look, prior to that, Davis has achieved a lot. I mean, he's a free weight division world champion, and he's captured multiple world titles in these weight divisions as well. And he's also beaten fighters such as Leo Santa Cruz, Isaac Cruz, Yuriorkis Gamboa, and obviously most recently Ryan Garcia. I think some people would argue that Davis maybe needs a few more big names on his resume, but look, he's a pay-per-view star. His last few fights have all been on pay-per-view. He's a pay-per-view star, and he's well on his way. It'll be interesting to see what Davis does next, but I don't think many people would disagree that he deserves, to be in the top 10 if we're factoring in, popularity and also, his resume as well. So there you go. Gervonta Davis is number 10. Number 9, we have Jermell Charlo. So Jermell Charlo is not the most active fighter in the world. He fought almost a year ago now when he beat Brian Carlos Castano to become undisputed at 154 pounds. But yeah, he's undisputed at 154. So he's one of the few undisputed champions in the world. And yeah, he's set to return in the summer, it looks like, to defend his title against Tim Tszyu. So he was meant to fight Tim Tszyu in January, but for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, he suffered an injury in his left hand. So yeah, he'll fight Tim Tszyu in the summer basically. Jermell Charlo's got a record of 35-1-1. He's only got one loss in his record, which was to Tony Harrison. He's absolutely massive for the weight, Jermell Charlo. Anyone who's around 6 foot and fights at light middleweight is it's going to be quite big, and that's definitely the case. But he also has really good boxing skills as well. So again, as an undisputed champion, I think it's hard to really debate whether or not he should be in the top 10. He's undisputed, so he's dominated his own weight division. So I think it's acceptable. Okay, moving on from Jermell Charlo. At number 8, we have Josh Taylor. See, Josh Taylor, I think a couple of years ago, most people would definitely agree with Josh Taylor being in the top 10 because he was on a roll. He won this World Super 6 boxing series by beating Regis Prograis in an impressive fight. Then he beat Jose Carlos Ramirez to become undisputed 140 pounds, which again was an amazing achievement. And kind of unfortunately for Taylor, since last year, I think he's gone down in a lot of people's estimations. And it's fair to say it was a very bad night for him and also for boxing as well. Josh Taylor obviously fighting Jack Catterall last year and being awarded a controversial split decision win. Many people thought that Catterall deserved to win, quite convincingly, but for whatever reason, Taylor was awarded a win, and since then he's not really. He was meant to have a rematch of Catterall, but it didn't kind of happen. It's been a mess. But the good news for Josh Taylor is that he's going to return on June 10th and fight Teofimo Lopez. And if Taylor does a number on Lopez, then I think that's going to make his stock go right back up. He's going to earn the respect of boxing fans again. Basically, he's going to remind them why he has the opportunity to remind them why he's undisputed and why he deserves to be in this list. Irrespective of what happened in the Jack Catterall fight. Number 7, we have Vasily Lomachenko. Lomachenko, we all know, is one of the best amateurs of all time. He's got a ridiculous record. And since turning professional, he's continued to do obviously very well. In only his 3rd fight, he beat Gary Russell Jr., which is a world-class opponent to win a world title. And then he's also beaten other world champions such as Rigondeaux, Linares, Walters, Pedraza. The only thing with Lomachenko, if you look at his record, it doesn't look that impressive because out of 17 fights, he's lost 2, which would make you think it's not that impressive. But one was a controversial one against Salido, and then obviously the one against Lopez. There are reports that he may have been injured in that fight. But I think most boxing purists would agree that Lomachenko is extremely talented, one of the most talented fighters in the world. But he doesn't hold a world title at the moment, which is interesting. But again, saying that, Lomachenko has a fantastic opportunity on May 20th. From a boxing purist point of view, one of the biggest fights in the world, for sure. Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko on May 20th. If Lomachenko goes there and gives Haney his first loss of his career, then Lomachenko is gonna literally shoot up the rankings. I can imagine Lomachenko even going to the top 5, top 4 potentially if he does that. On the flip side of that, if he does lose to Haney, it could be Haney in the pound for pound rankings instead, and I don't think anyone would argue with that. Haney is undisputed at lightweight, and if he was to beat Lomachenko in convincing fashion, I think a lot of people would agree that maybe he deserves to be in the pound for pound rankings instead. But it remains to be seen. Number 6, we have Dmitry Bivol. When Bivol first got his WBA title, he had a few, I guess some people say he had a few maybe not that impressive performances. In any case, Canelo Alvarez chose him to become his next opponent in May 2022. Canelo wanted another title at light heavyweight, and Bivol basically showed how good he was that night. So Bivol, beat Canelo Alvarez pretty convincingly. The cards were quite close, but it was unanimous. And I think a lot of people would say that Bivol maybe deserved to win a little bit more clearly. But in any case, Bivol captured a very good victory over Canelo Alvarez and basically showed, how good of a fighter he is. And then since then, he's continued to show how good he is by beating Gilberto Ramirez. Obviously, Gilberto Ramirez had a ridiculous record of 44-0. One of the most prolific undefeated records in boxing. And yeah, Bivol really dominated Ramirez as well. And you can say what you want about Ramirez. Maybe his record was a little bit padded, but still, he's massive for light heavyweight Ramirez, and Bivol really beat him quite easily. As unfortunately for Bivol, he doesn't really have a fight at the moment. Obviously, there was speculation he would fight Joshua Buatsi, but that didn't go through. So now it looks like Bivol's basically waiting for a fight against either Alvarez or Artur Beterbiev. A fight against Artur Beterbiev would be good because it'd be for all the belts. Well, we say that. The WBC have said that they wouldn't sanction a belt against Artur Beterbiev for some reason. Or the other likelihood is that he's going to have another rematch with Alvarez, with Canelo. Canelo, I think, wants to avenge that defeat, and yeah, Bivol beat him fairly recently. So if Canelo does get through John Ryder next week, it's possible that he'll face Bivol in September. Number 5, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo, I think some people are saying maybe he's not looking as good in recent fights. I think the fight against Golovkin, his last fight against Golovkin, didn't really picture him in a very good light. It wasn't maybe his best performance. But we can't deny how much Canelo has achieved in his career. He's captured multiple world titles in 4 different weight divisions. He became the first undisputed super middleweight champion by beating Caleb Plant in 2021. And I think, whatever happens, he is going to go down as an all-time great. And it's fair to say he is the face of boxing. He is the most popular fighter in the world. And he makes his homecoming fight in Mexico this Saturday against John Ryder, where I think most people would expect Canelo to come through that fairly easily. And then probably set up a fight with Dmitry Bivol, or who knows, David Benavidez, who knows. But I don't think many people would argue Canelo still deserves to be in the pound for pound top 10 rankings, despite maybe not having the best performances in his last couple of fights. Number 4, we have Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence, known as The Truth, has shown so far that he is the truth, yeah, in at welterweight. You know, he's beaten some really world-class fighters. He's beaten Kell Brook, Michael Garcia, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. Um, and yeah, I mean also Ugas as well. That was a very impressive win. Ugas was on a bit of a roll, and it was a very competitive fight. But again, Spence showing how hard he really is to defeat. You know, stopping Ugas in the 10th round, and now holding 3 out of 4 belts at welterweight. So yeah, it's hard to. I think Errol Spence Jr. It's hard to argue that he deserves to be in the top 5. And the only thing left now for Errol Spence Jr. really is a fight with Terence Crawford. That's the other. That's the only fight he really needs to kind of, you know, to take his, I guess, his status to the next level. And speaking of that, that's who number 3 is. So number 3 we have Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford obviously started his career at lightweight, moved up the weight divisions, captured multiple world titles in three different weight divisions. Has a record of 39-0, 30 KOs. A lot of people believe Crawford should just be number 1. They believe he's the most, you know, the most skilled fighter. He can literally do everything. He can punch, he can box, he can switch. And since moving up to 147 pounds, he's beaten Amir Khan, Kell Brook, Sean Porter, and obviously most recently David Evanesian. Similar to Errol Spence, he just needs one more fight really to solidify his legacy. You know, we can only hope that Crawford versus Errol Spence happens in June or July. That's when it's kind of being rumored for. And you know, whoever wins out of Crawford and Spence, they are going to shoot up the pound for pound rankings, and yeah, potentially, yeah, just really shoot up the rankings. But Crawford, undoubtedly one of the best fighters in the world, and rightfully in the top 3. Then at number 2 we have Naoya Inoue, who's nicknamed the Monster, and for good reason. You know, definitely one of the hardest hitters on the planet. Hits extremely hard, and you know he's got 5 knockouts in his last 5 fights. And apart from a one fight with Nonita Donaire a few years ago in their first fight, which was I guess competitive, Inoue has really dominated every opponent he's stepped into the ring with. And he seems to be going up the weight division slowly, and yeah, he's just got dynamite in his hands. Saying that, you know, he has a massive opportunity on July 25th to face Stephen Fulton. I mean, Stephen Fulton is a world-class fighter in itself. So if Inoue, so that's a bit of a test for Inoue. I mean, he's moving up to 120 pounds, so you know it remains to be seen who's going to be the bigger man there. I mean, you'd think Stephen Fulton's going to be a little bit bigger because he's been fighting at 120 pounds. But Stephen Fulton, very skilled, and that will tell a lot about Inoue. If Inoue can literally go in there on July 25th and, I guess, dominate Stephen Fulton, then it would not be a surprise to see him, you know, maybe be upgraded to number 1 in the rankings, because he's just literally going through, you know, it's just flying through opponents. So that remains to be seen. But yeah, Stephen Fulton versus Naoya Inoue, that's either going to propel him to number 1, or maybe if he loses, because it is boxing, anything can happen, maybe propel him a little bit down. But we shall see. And number 1, we have Alexander Usyk. Yeah, it's hard to really disagree as well. I mean, it's very debatable who should be number 1, but Usyk has achieved so much as an amateur and also as a professional. I mean, since being professional, you know, he became the first cruiserweight champion in the 4-belt era. And what's even more impressive about Usyk is just the way he's done it. You know, he's done it in kind of the hardest way. You know, when he became a cruiserweight champion, he was always going to other people's backyards. You know, he beat Slovakia in Poland, Marco Huck in Germany, Bredis in Latvia, Gassiev in Russia. You know, and then he moved up to heavyweight, and you know, his first shot at a heavyweight title, he fights Anthony Joshua in London, and you know, gives AJ a boxing lesson. So that's what's very impressive about Usyk. It's just he seems to just take all challenges, and he emerges victorious. You know, he beat Joshua on 2 separate occasions, and is currently the unified heavyweight champion, holding the IBF, WBA, and WBO heavyweight championships. And Usyk again, it's another fighter that kind of just needs one more fight. He was very close. Well, we say very close. I mean, negotiations were going with Tyson Fury. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the fight didn't happen. But I think that's all Usyk wants to do. That's all Usyk has left, really. I think as soon as he gets an opportunity to fight for the WBC belt, or if he becomes undisputed, that's it. He may well retire. Unfortunately, the fight with Fury did fall through, so now it looks likely that Usyk is going to face Daniel Dubois. He's going to defend his WBA championship against his mandatory, which is Daniel Dubois, in the summer, it looks like. It should be a competitive fight, but I think most people would expect Usyk to get through. And if he does get through, if the rumours are true, we could see Usyk fight Fury in December. That is the rumours. I mean, Anthony Joshua confirmed the other day that he's gonna fight Deontay Wilder in December. So it could be a bit of a semi-final format where we've got Fury, Usyk, and Joshua Wilder, and then the winners face each other. But it remains to be seen. I mean, Usyk kind of already tried to make a fight with Fury and it didn't happen. So there's no guarantee that's going to happen. But look, Usyk, currently the number 1 pound-for-pound boxer in the world, and considering how he's got there, joining the likes of Evander Holyfield as a heavyweight who's won, who was a former cruiserweight, won multiple world titles at cruiserweight, and then has captured multiple world titles at heavyweight. It's really hard to disagree. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. Those are the top 10 best pound-for-pound boxers in the world in the latest rankings. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Cheers.